Welcome back to the Analyzing Archivist, the show where we will dive and delve and analyze into anything horror related media. Today we are continuing our coverage with the Magnus archives with my co-host for this series, at least Hazel. Um, you will, they will be here for the next and foreseeable uh, future. Um,
Never know what will happen.
Never know what will happen.
Never know.
Today we are covering episodes 3 and 4 of the Magnus Archives, which is a podcast produced by the Rusty Quill and written by Jonathan Sims. Has a 4.0 international license.
This is tiding us over until Protocol comes back.
Yes, we
dearly miss it.
Listen to the podcast. Listen to the episode 3 before you come here. We're going to do that first, obviously.
This is all 200 episodes.
And
the bonus ones.
You could do all that, all the Q&A episodes, all the other funny goofs and gaffs. But yes, we are going to be delving deep into this episode 3. First of all, Across the Street, which is again another solid one from the first season, I think. At least in the first half of the series, I'll say.
Yeah.
Case number 0070107, statement of Amy Patel regarding the alleged disappearance of her acquaintance Graham Folger. So yeah, this one starts with starts right into the statement as these initial ones do. Amy Patel is she initially met Graham. This Graham Folger in September of 2005. Both were taking a criminology course at Birkbeck University. Graham was a smoker, smelt like deodorant, like a strong deodorant, and was was about 10 years older than her. Round face with deep blue eyes is what she described him as.
Which is very important. Remember that.
Remember the details. It's gonna change.
It's gonna change.
During one lecture hall, she noticed that Graham, as he would write notes in a class, but he would fill a whole notebook in one lecture.
He's going through notebooks like insanely fast, and she mentions that they have these lecturers who are speaking so slowly that there's no way he can be filling notebooks even with everything they're saying. But he's just filling notebook after notebook after notebook.
And on top of that, one time she asked him for notes for some sort of project she was doing. He said he didn't write notes.
He's like, I don't write notes. You're insane. What are you doing?
Notes? I'm too cool for that. After leaving the criminology course one time, they both found themselves on the night bus. She initially saw him staring out a window, kind of anxiously, staring out a window.
Yeah, they say that it was kind of foggy, and so he was wiping it off. And then he was so nervous he would breathe on it again and just be foggy again. And he's like this never-ending process.
Very anxious guy we're getting, this Graham Folger, this Graham character.
So they're on the same bus, and they get off, and she's kind of like, he's walking in the same direction as me. That's kind of weird. And she gets shoved into a bush, basically.
Was it a bush? I thought she got shoved into the street.
It was the street. It
was the street. Yeah. No. So she's walking behind him because she doesn't really want him to know. She's a private person. Doesn't want to know where him to know where Amy lives. When she feels an arm just grab her shoulder and throw her into the street, which initially you might think, oh, Graham, that guy, he did that thing. No, he was in front of her, so she doesn't really know. And the street was also very empty. She allegedly remembers.
But basically, she probably passed out. Graham calls 999.
Yeah. Ambulance comes. She tries to... Well, she attempts to try to say to Graham that he's fine after blacking out for a moment. But she can't quite get the words out, probably having a concussion, which when ambulance people come, she has a concussion. Suggests that she shouldn't be left alone for the next few hours to recover properly, and reluctantly Amy and Graham agree to stay at Graham's place because she, again, does not really want to know. She doesn't want him to know where she lives.
Which makes sense.
Fair, completely agree.
They get to Graham's flat. Turns out Graham's is directly across the street.
Basically, she can see her window from his apartment, is what she says, I believe.
So they get in the room. she looks around and she's like, "Do you plant flowers?" Because he has a window box, and he's like, "What the heck? You're insane! There's no window box, and there isn't a window box."
But the thing, why she says this is because she sees hooks. There's these hooks, and traditionally, you'd hang a plant from a hook. Makes sense. And she, again, with this concussion, she just leaves it to that, the concussion. There's a hook. There's hooks there. She assumes that. Looks back, no hooks.
So we have the hooks outside, and beside that, there's just notebooks everywhere. Like,
oh no,
he's definitely filling up these notebooks and taking them back.
Notebooks all over, especially on one bookshelf that don't have any clear organizational pattern to them at all.
She doesn't ask about them, basically.
No, ignores that, and her head starts to ache and hurt more. So Graham takes over most of the talking. Yeah. Describes how his parents died in a car accident a few years ago, left him big money and the flat that in his flat, and he just finds himself lost and adrift in some moments. So
he's basically just taking classes because he's bored.
Basically.
And so they're sitting down with tea, and there's this table in front of them.
Yes.
And it's this very hypnotic table.
Spiral pattern leading into the center of this table, where there's apparently a square hole that's missing out of it. Graham says that he found. I don't remember exactly where he found it, but he found it and restored it. Put a lot of money into to restore it because he thought it was pretty cool. But he could never find what was meant to go in the middle of it.
Basically, she finds it really dull, and she spends the rest of the time there just staring at this table.
I think it was after that a bit, she makes up some excuses. She eventually leaves Graham's flat, heads back to her own, where she then begins to have the habit over the next few days of Graham watching, as she calls it.
So before on the bus, she admitted that she liked people watching was guilty pleasure. Now she just goes insane about Graham. She's basically just watching him fill out more notebooks.
Yeah, she watches him fill out more notebooks. He would rearrange them randomly, in no particular order, rhyme, or reason. He ate a notebook over the course of about 3 or 4 hours. Just would tear out pages and eat them. She also figured out that he only ate pizza, or he would order takeout and whatnot.
He's really nervous the whole time.
Really nervous, jumps at any slight noise or anything and will stare out the window nervously, closes curtains sometimes. And, maybe, I think it was about maybe a week or so of this, maybe a month. I don't remember the exact time frame of this, but she gets home one day after something, late at night, in April 7th of 2000 something or another. Okay. April 7th, 2006 is when she, as she says, she wished she wasn't Graham watching in that particular moment. While she was watching Graham, she noticed what looked like some sort of water pipe out on the little, I forget what you call that, but the outside stairs ladder thing that some apartment buildings have and whatnot, so fire escape, there's a fire, you can leave. And she noticed it begin to clamber through his window. She describes this multi-jointed arm that reaches for it, opens it,
and it's not moving really. It's kind of shifting.
Yeah, she finds it hard to describe of how exactly it moves.
One of those old magic eye paintings. You change from seeing one picture into seeing another, so it doesn't look right.
No,
basically.
They don't look right at all. But that is when the lights in his flat go out. For a moment, she sees movement of something or another, and after a few moments, the lights turn back on, and she sees this person there that doesn't look like Graham. She describes it as being shorter, longer hair, and more of a square face rather than his round face.
Basically, so she calls in to report it to the police.
Anonymously.
The police come by, they knock on his door, and someone else is there.
Yeah, someone else is there. She's thinking, oh, this burglar's gonna get caught for stealing, breaking into this alleged friend, maybe not so friend's apartment. And the cops don't have any particular qualms with anything. They bring out his passport, and everything seems fine.
And he smiles at her, kind of.
Yeah, after the police
creepily
leave, this
smiles.
not Graham stares out the window back at Amy, um, to her flat. It was then she continues to watch this not Graham, as she describes it, for a little bit longer. It throws out all of his notebooks in trash bags through the various days, rearranges furniture, and then it was one point where he met her on the bus again, I think. This not Graham. And basically said, I have the quote pulled up right here. "Isn't it funny, Amy, how you can live so near and never notice? I'll need to return the visit someday." And that is when she moves out of that apartment promptly.
She moves out, and she also realizes like she asked her classmates about this, and none of her classmates.
Yeah, I think.
Which is.
Yeah, she also researched some photos, and they would all be photos that would have Graham in them. But now they have seemed to change to this not Graham.
Yeah.
And that's where that statement really leaves off.
John's recap of it.
He says that Tim found Amy's medical notes, which showed that she didn't suffer any long-term effects of her injuries, and photos that researchers could find of Graham were of this not Graham, except for a few Polaroids, which just a few Polaroids that were taken in the late 80s that showed this Amy's initial description of what Graham looked like. Sasha also offered up a following interview with Amy, which she declined after being informed one of Graham's notebooks had apparently been found, in which the contents were on throughout all the page the two words "keep watching."
Yeah, there's nothing else in these notebooks except that.
Yep. Okay. And that is where that episode leaves off. Initial spoiler-free review. Is again solid episode for this first half of the season. Again, we're starting to see little pieces click together. Not necessarily with, well, actually, again, this features one of the prominent things that we'll see later down the line. But other than that, no, just good storytelling. Jonathan Sims, the writer, the person.
Not 20 of the other Jonathans.
Not the multitude of other Johns in this series.
I think it's a really good episode to end with "keep watching," because if someone were to be enticed to not listen to every 200 other episodes on the birthday episode, keep watching. Keep watching. Basically. We've got through Anglerfish, which is a really important pull-in. We've got through the second statement.
Do not open.
Yeah. Do not open.
Mm-hmm. Good coffin episode. That is where this episode ends. Now, leave if you haven't listened to this episode or the rest of the series, or don't care. Or I mean, if you really should. Spoiler territory now. The not them. I'm gonna have to be honest. One of my favorite creatures, kind of probably throughout the whole series. Very interesting how, again, they can shape reality, except for Polaroids in like analog media, which is very interesting.
And specific people too.
That is very true. Yes.
Which is definitely, I think that's more of the fear aspect of it.
And we'll get to that later in spoilers. Again, if you're already here, you're already in spoilers. Go away now. Especially with Melanie and how the whole archive crew figure out that later. Spoilers, go away. Sasha is this other she's been taken at the end of season 1 by the table.
So the first appearance of the not them, and we also see the table.
Yes, the table
the not them inside his flat.
Mm-hmm. We'll learn how John makes a very silly, very Jonathan Sims mistake later down the line.
And I think so. It says on the wiki here that the related entities are the stranger and the web, which are both very true.
I could also see maybe perchance like in like the original Graham himself, a little bit of the lonely. Possibly,
Yeah.
just being lost, not really having anything to do other than just take these classes. I could see a little bit of that thrown in there as well.
Obviously, Smarks 14 isn't a very good category. It sort of categorizes, but it doesn't really deal with the overlap. But I think one of the most important things to me in this statement is that the I is so involved with Amy herself to keep watching.
Oh,
Graham.
that's true. Yeah, I can definitely see that.
Involved, in my opinion.
The keep watching as well, which I've seen a couple different theories about, him saying keep watching, either to himself as to just keep watching for this thing that's potentially stalking him, and realizing when you've watched the whole series and like listening to this on a second run, the reason why it takes him is so the Breakin and Hope can take it and deliver it to the archives to potentially have John get trapped in it, get not them, that sort of thing. Which again, on a second listen through, is very interesting to connect those dots back, as to why this random guy has it. Okay, well we need that. Kill him off.
Yeah, I think the keep watching might have been keeping away the not them. That makes sense.
That's again, to try and not always keep watching for that thing that is stalking me, is creeping me out.
We can cut that out. Okay. Anyways,
other than that, there is not much more for this episode.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much everything.
That's pretty much it.
It's a short and sweet one. Kind of sets things up.
Sets a lot of fun stuff out for the next time. But that is everything for this part.
Next part.
We'll see you in part 2. With that, second part, Mag number 4, which again is another one that I forgot about a little bit.
It's such a good one though.
It is really good. Our first little novel. So yeah, Mag number 4, the page turner, case number 0132806, statement of Dominic Swain regarding a book briefly in his possession, winter of 2012. Again, this one begins with just the statement, as these early ones do. I've said that already. So Dominic Swain's a theater technician, running lights at small theater companies in London. He arranged to meet a past interest of his, they dated for a little bit is what's implied, a Catherine Mendez, on Saturday 10th of November of 2012. At the Gate Theatre in Notting Hill for a matinee performance of The Trojan Woman that she was in. Dominic arrived early and went to the local Oxfam charity shop to kill time before the performance. There he found a plain book buried in what was probably just leather, like actual real leather-bound book.
Very soft leather.
Ex Altiora, which was
very
written
old.
on it.
So he finds this very old, very leathery book.
Very leathery.
Always, if you're in an old part of anywhere, you're dealing with old books, be wary of leather. I'm just gonna say that straight out. There's more human-bound books than you think there are. So beware.
I wasn't aware of this.
It's rare here, but
the possibility, I guess. That's kind of disconcerting. Anyways, back to the fiction podcast. So he finds this book called Ex Altiora, mentions that it was written in Latin and that he took a little bit in something, I don't remember exactly, but he knew a little bit Latin. And there was also, it had like woodcut images of cliffs, mountains, and like a night sky on it. And the book plate in the cover read, "From the library of Jürgen Leitner." Spooky. No spoilers yet. We'll talk about that later.
But so from his Latin classes, he thinks it means "from higher or out of the heights," which is a good explanation of what's happening.
Yes. He also mentions that wouldn't be like a direct translation, or John mentions it later in the post statement stuff. But again, Latin, not really like written for or in the later time of its like existence, was written more for like religious stuff. Didn't really have a great translation into modern English. What that would be.
He says it's being sold for a lot cheaper than it looks like it should be.
That
which
yes,
could
very
hint to something on the stories.
Could be you know, if you used eBay,
eBay.
something's cheap. It's probably bad. During the performance, though, he smells a lot of ozone throughout this. Which again, I couldn't really describe what the smell of ozone.
It smells like when it's about to rain.
Oh, is that what that smell is?
Yeah.
Okay, that's I did not know that.
I think so. Cut that out if it's wrong.
Cut that out if it's wrong. Editor, aka me. After, or actually during the performance, yeah, he smelled ozone. Could not pinpoint the source. Catherine had a look at the book, but did not read much as the images triggered her vertigo, which I'll talk about that later still. Dominic did end up doing some research, found nothing on the book or this Jürgen Leitner, except for a listing on eBay from 2007, an auction on another book called The Key of Solomon of 1863, owned by McGregor Mathers and Jürgen Leitner, which was won for £1,200. So that's the European currency, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, they're not. After Brexit, they weren't. No.
Oh,
they're not European anymore.
I forgot about that.
Okay.
12,000 currency by someone called GR Bookworm 1818. Spooky.
No spoilers though.
No spoilers.
That'll be in the spoiler zone.
Spoiler zone. We'll pin that for later. He tried to get more information on the book from various buyers, but they were not able to tell him anything other than that is maybe 100, 150 years old. And the last buyer that was known was Leitner, saying he was a big name in the literacy scene in the 1990s, a Scandinavian recluse who custom bound books or asked authors to write books for him. He disappeared around 1995, but dealt with a shop called Pinhole Books.
In Morden. So Mary Key is the person who owns that, and basically he goes down there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Goes visits the wonderful person that is Mary Key.
Yeah, he's still smelling ozone.
Yeah, I get a lot of ozone. A lot of ozone around this guy. Very dizzy, very nauseous. After the theater performance, Dominic went for a walk, found himself in Morden.
He literally found himself like he didn't.
He didn't realize
he kind of zoned out and just was like, I'm a block away.
The Pinhole Books. He knocked on the door. He was greeted by an old woman with a shaved head who sported numerous tattoos of various words all over her body. Dominic showed her the book, and the woman, who we will learn was Mary Key.
There's also a very heavy death metal playing their time. I think that's important to know. So this old lady who's bald has tattoos that he can't recognize, and just death metal
music
pumping
playing
through the entire place.
Yep, very interesting.
It's also 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yes, it is. It is 2 o'clock in the morning. He apologizes numerous times for waking her up. Again, the part of not realizing that he's right outside this place that he was going to look for anyways. So after that, he returned. Later he returned to the building. Followed. I'm sorry, I read that wrong. Dominic showed her the book, and the woman, who we learn is Mary Key, returned to the building, followed by Dominic. After walking through, seemed like a maze of books. They stopped in one room, and there were bookshelves all over the walls, and old desks with papers, fishing wires, and safety razors, and a painting of an eye, which was incredibly detailed, with intricate patterns and symmetry, with the caption, "Grant us the sight that we may not know, grant us the scent that we may not catch, grant us the sound that we may not call," which Mary said was painted by her Jerry. Her Jared.
Her Gerard.
Her Gerard. Gerard K. Again, that reminds me how I think it's Melanie pronounces the name. It's like Gerard K.
Yeah. Anyways.
No spoilers. Melanie who? I don't know. Mary announced that it was a long time since she had seen what she calls a lightner, but that Jared kept an eye out for them. She showed Dominic her Lightner, a similar book in appearance to the one Dominic had found, this XL Tiora, but it had no title. As she passed it under the shadows and Dominic had a closer look, tiny warped animal bones began to fall from the book. He looked at his book again and saw that the images were starker, with a Lichtenberg figure on a previously empty star night. Uh, I actually don't remember what a Lichtenberg figure is.
Yeah.
Lightning. Yes.
Yeah.
You could Google. Yeah, no, it's basically what lightning looks like, being this like veiny, textury sort of lightning appearing on a previously empty sky. He fled the building because
It still smells like ozone.
smells like ozone. Smells like ozone and tiny bones falling from a book.
Yeah.
This is a notebook, but if you didn't know, these things are pretty solid. Not much space to hide tiny little animal bones
Tiny disfigured animal
Tiny
bones.
disfigured animal bones. If you could do it, I'd be impressed.
So he gets home and he says that he remembers the Lichtenberg figure because his childhood friend had been struck by lightning once and had the scars. Have you seen the scars from that?
I think I believe so. Yeah.
Search them up. They're really cool. And also sad. Sorry if you've been struck by lightning.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll probably pop a couple of find some images that pop up. That is very interesting, actually.
Mm-hmm. But Michael Crew has been struck by lightning when he was a child.
Wait, hang on. Is he mentioned? Yes, yeah. He is mentioned here. I forgot about that. Yes. Childhood friend Michael Crew struck by lightning.
Yeah. So basically, he has this whole flashback where he convinced Michael Crew to play outside. He gets struck by lightning.
Mm-hmm. He was scarred by this sort of lightning scarring, this Lichtenberg figure, as it keeps getting recalled.
Ozone.
And more smells of ozone. Later the night, after returning home, there was a knock at his door, which stood one Jared Key, son, potential. I believe it's son, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, son of Mary Key, stood at
son. For all you Gary fans out there. Okay, anyways.
Stood at the threshold, dressed in a dark, long leather coat and dyed black hair. Looked
very badly dyed.
Very. That's right.
Gary's gonna come up again, and this description is always used for him.
Very used. So. Very poorly dyed hair. He looks like he had not been sleeping well or at all. And he looked at XL Tiora and offered 5,000 of whatever currency, because I always forget. Pounds. 5,000 pounds to buy the book. Dominic agreed, obviously, thinking that he would have given it away, but Dominic agreed, thinking that he would have given it away, but that wouldn't count, and Jared left to go get the money. Whilst he was away, Dominic began researching this family, the Keys, and found news articles from 2008. Mary Key's body had been found. Death was determined to be of an overdose by painkillers, but was ruled a murder by the police due to large pieces of her skin being removed, hung to dry on fishing wire, as one is to be found. One's to be found. A picture attached to the news reported that she didn't have any tattoos and she had a full head of hair. Jared was acquitted after an important piece of evidence deemed inadmissible that he was not the murderer or did such skin things to this Mary Key. Jared then returned and burned the book after paying Dominic, which then the smell of ozone stopped.
Yeah. And it's important to mention too that Gary just burns the book in one of his bins.
Yeah, in front of Dominic,
in front
essentially.
of Dominic.
Pays this guy for the book and then burns it immediately.
In front of him.
In front of him.
Yeah. And he says, "My mother doesn't always know what's best for our family," and then he leaves.
Yeah.
So...
we'll see this guy later.
Yeah.
Talk about him a bit more. He picked up the scaling the hot bin that he burned this book in, and
He leaves.
Yeah, he just leaves.
He
just leaves. And that is the end of the statement. Leaves off there abruptly. Yes, post-statement Johnny Sims stuff. The character. Jonathan Sims notes that he thought he had dealt with the remainder of the Leitner Library after the incident of 1994.
So basically, he does this complete switch from the intense critic, and he goes, "Wait a minute, there's a Leitner. It's real.
It's real." The library was known for having custom editions of known texts on demonology and some of the arcane. Martin and Sasha also had looked into mentions of this XL Tiora, but found no records of it. Jerry Key was unable to be located for follow-up interviews as he had disappeared after his trial. Johnny Sims notes that that Pinhole Books was closed after 2008 for obvious reasons, so it would not have been there when Dominic visited it. In various police reports that Tim found, Mary's flesh had been covered in Sanskrit writing, script similar to that was found on the Leitner book. Yeah, that is where the episode really ends. Again, one of the shorter ones, but a good one at that. Spoiler-free territory here for now. Again, go listen to the thing. Another good, solid episode. We get introduction to the library of Jürgen Leitner, which we will see a lot more from his books.
Yeah, and I mean, I know that something's going on with the Leitner books. If Jonathan Sims believes it, something's up.
If Johnny Sims believes it, oh boy, is it true.
Oh boy, is it true.
Yeah, no, something supernatural and uncanny is happening with these books.
Yeah.
He mentions that as soon as he gave the book away and it was burned, that this smell of ozone stopped and his vertigo, lightheadedness had just gone.
Yeah. Okay, so if this is your first listen through, keep your ear out for the names Michael Crew and Gary Key in the future, because they're going to be important. I'll say that.
Yes. Michael or Mike Crew, as he is also called.
Yes.
Very important figures that we will find out later. Other than that, just another solid episode for this first season. Mm-hmm. And I believe that is pretty much that for this spoiler-free version.
Yeah.
Again, if you're leaving now because you don't want to get spoiled, we will see you next time when we cover episode Mag number 5, Thrown Away, which is another good one, and the next one, Mag 6, Squirm.
Oh joy, this is going to be fun to cover.
There's a lot of stuff with episode 6 that's...
It's one of the famous ones.
One of the famous ones for good reasons. Yeah.
I really like Thrown Away though. So.
Thrown Away episode 5 is a good one, but we'll see you people who haven't spoiled it in that next time.
Okay, now time for spoilers.
Go away. Anyways, back to the spoilers. Oh boy, our first Leitner. XL Tiora. Book of the Vast. Duh, I was blanking there for a second.
Yes. So the Vast definitely shows up in this episode.
The eye a bit with Mary Key and that whole thing.
And possibly the flesh from the bones.
I think that's like a brief mention. Mention. Looking on the Magnus WIKI, which again I'll have links for that great resource for this. It says that the end is mentioned a bit.
I'm not really sure where.
I'm also not really horribly noticed where that is coming from.
It could be with the whole murder stuff, but honestly, I think that's...
Here it is. Mary, it says, again, spoilers, leave, go. Mary Key, while not strictly aligned with any one entity, has most connection to the end.
Okay, that would be it.
Which, I don't remember much about Mary Key, I'm going to be completely honest. I know she has some arguments with Gertrude that we hear about later on.
I don't think she actually shows up as a character again in the rest of the podcast. I'm not sure.
No, she has a VA later on, I remember.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I remember that, but other than that, I do not remember a lot about her. Again, Michael Crew, another... Spoilers, go. Michael Crew, Avatar of the Vast, we will see a lot, and his demise later on. Michael's demise for Michael. No, Kill Michael.
There's so many Michaels in this podcast.
So many Michaels, so many Johns.
Yeah.
Hang on, I'm looking through the old wiki for a bit.
They say that Mariki's death occurred as she was attempting to bind herself to the catalog of the trapped dead. And so a lot of people have linked this to why she had a shaved head and was tattooed. Because she kind of was the book.
That, and again, spoilers, shoot. She gets killed by Daisy.
Yeah.
When John escapes the... Arsenal. No, this is before that. I'm stupid.
I honestly don't remember that one.
I don't remember. He dies eventually. Spoilers. Shoot, go. Another cool character, though. I do like Michael Crew for his appearances that show up. I also just kind of like the Vast. Or, the Vast is one that I really like. One that we don't... Actually, we do see a bit of the Vast.
Simon Fairchild was iconic.
Oh, love that guy. Love our sweet Simon Fairchild. Let's see, anything else? Spoilers.
We also see GR Bookworm 1818 as Gertrude.
Yep, which really again, as a person who is going through this their second time, making a lot of sense connection wise of yes, GR Gertrude Robinson.
Yeah.
But the question of that would be, why is she collecting these books?
Why is the remainder of her username 1818?
She might be old.
She's older.
She is old.
She's that old.
I don't know. That could be her. 18. For some reason, I was thinking 1918.
No. No, that would make more sense.
That would make too much sense.
Anyways. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it for this one. They're both, again, good statements to start off the podcast with.
Yes, and again, looking forward to the next 2 episodes. One more than the other, I'm going to be honest. I mean, I like both of them.
We could just get cliffhanger notes for episode.
Worm sex is weird. I'll leave it at that. But after, enjoy. I hope you enjoyed this little batch of 2 episodes, which we're going to start doing, maybe, potentially, possibly, which would make a lot more sense, especially for this early season. With all that out of the way, do the thing that YouTubers do and like and subscribe if you do enjoy this.
Hashtag
Magnus. Just Magnus.
Hashtag
God. Hashtag Magnus Archives. Again, discussion. Again, I realized the other day that this next year Magnus Archives is going to be 9 years old.
So.
In 2026, it is going to be a decade old.
2026 sounds like a sci-fi year. Like, it doesn't sound possible.
Well, I mean, again, original Back to the Future movies, they were like, oh yes, flying cars in 2014.
True, yeah. I mean, what is a flying car?
What is a flying car?
But an airplane.
But no. Yeah, I probably would have cut it off earlier. We're just talking now.
Wait a second.
Yeah, we're just talking. That is... Did it...